Ji-won stood at the observation deck of Kepler Station, watching the morning shift begin. Outside the thick glass windows, space stretched endlessly in all directions. The station floated quietly in the darkness, its lights blinking steadily like a lighthouse in an ocean of stars. "Coffee?" Minho asked, walking up beside her with 2 steaming cups. "Thanks." Ji-won took the cup and smiled. Minho always knew when she needed coffee. He was that kind of person, always thinking about others. The station hummed softly around them. Kepler Station was not very big, but it was home to 200 humans. They had come here 5 years ago to mine rare metals from the nearby asteroids. The work was hard but peaceful. No wars, no fighting, just honest work among the stars. "The Zilani trade ship will arrive today," Minho said, checking his tablet. "They want to buy more steel plates." Ji-won nodded. The Zilani were good customers. They looked like tall, thin humans with blue skin and no hair. They always paid on time and never caused trouble. Many alien species came to Kepler Station to trade. The humans had built a reputation as fair dealers who treated everyone equally. "And the Cortex delegation?" Ji-won asked. "Tomorrow morning. Yuna is preparing the translation programs now." Yuna was their best communications officer. She could speak 12 alien languages and understand 20 more. The Cortex were new to this part of space. They looked like large insects that walked on 2 legs. Some humans found them scary, but Ji-won knew they were just trying to survive like everyone else. The station's intercom crackled to life. "Commander Ji-won to the docking bay. We have incoming ships." Ji-won and Minho headed toward the docking bay. The corridors of Kepler Station were clean and bright. Paintings from Earth hung on the walls, showing green forests and blue oceans. Many crew members had never seen Earth, but the pictures reminded them where humans came from. At the docking bay, Tae-hyun was waiting. He was the security chief, a big man with kind eyes. He took his job seriously, but never used more force than needed. Most days, his biggest problem was settling arguments between drunk traders. 3 Zilani ships, Tae-hyun reported. Bigger than usual. Looks like they brought their families this time. Through the bay windows, they could see the Zilani ships approaching. The ships were beautiful, with smooth curves and silver surfaces that reflected the station's lights. The Zilani built things to be both useful and pretty. "Their children love our human candy," Minho said, grinning. "I'll ask the kitchen to prepare some." "Good idea," Ji-won said. Making aliens feel welcome was important. Happy customers meant good business, and good business meant the station could keep running. The first Zilani ship docked with a soft thud. The airlock sealed with a hiss and the doors opened. Ambassador Veltar stepped through, followed by several other Zilani. Veltar was old for his species, with silver marks on his blue skin that showed his age and wisdom. "Commander Ji-won," Veltar said in perfect English. His voice sounded like wind chimes. "It is good to see you again." "Welcome back, Ambassador. How was your journey?" "Long but peaceful. We are grateful for the safety your station provides." Ji-won felt proud when aliens said things like that. Kepler Station was known throughout this sector as a neutral zone. No fighting was allowed here. No weapons except for security. All species were welcome, as long as they followed the rules. More Zilani came through the airlock. There were males, females, and several children. The young Zilani stayed close to their parents, staring at the humans with wide, curious eyes. Yuna arrived with her translation tablet, though she did not need it for the Zilani. They had been coming here for 3 years and spoke good English. "The children can visit our school today if they want," Yuna offered. "Our human children would love to meet them." The Zilani parents looked pleased. Cultural exchange was another thing Kepler Station was known for. Human children learned about alien cultures, and alien children learned about humans. It helped everyone understand each other better. Nari appeared with her medical kit. She was the station's doctor, a woman who cared about every living thing. "Do any of your people need medical attention?" she asked. "Just the usual travel sickness," Veltar replied. "Space travel is hard on our stomachs. I have medicine that will help. It works for most species." This was normal life on Kepler Station. Aliens arrived, humans helped them with whatever they needed. Business was done and everyone left happy. It had been this way for years. While the Zilani settled in, Ji-won walked to the command center. The room was full of screens showing ship traffic, station systems, and news from across the galaxy. Everything looked normal and peaceful. "Any interesting news today?" she asked Yoonji, who monitored communications. "Nothing major. Some trade disputes near the core worlds. A new planet discovered in the outer rim. Oh, and the Vorthak Empire is expanding again. Jiwan frowned slightly. The Vorthak Empire was far away, but their reputation was not good. They conquered other species and treated them badly. Most civilized worlds stayed away from Vorthak space. How far are they expanding? Jiwan asked. Still hundreds of light years away from us. Nothing to worry about. Jiwan nodded but made a mental note to keep watching the news. In space, things that seemed far away could become close problems very quickly. The day continued normally. The Zelani children visited the school and giggled at human cartoons. The adults toured the mining facilities and placed orders for metal products. Minho gave them a technical presentation about their new refining processes. During lunch, Donghyun joined them in the cafeteria. He was officially listed as a maintenance worker, but Jiwan had always suspected there was more to his story. He was too calm, too observant, and his hands had the steady look of someone who had held weapons. The new asteroid field looks promising, Donghyun said, eating his sandwich. Rich in titanium and platinum. Good. We can always use more raw materials, Jiwan replied. As they talked, a group of mixed aliens sat at a nearby table. There were Zelani, two bear-like Grunoth, and a small green pixie trader. They were all laughing at something on a tablet screen. This was what Jiwan loved most about the station, seeing different species get along together. Commander, Taehyun's voice came through her communicator. We have more ships incoming. Long-range sensors show a large group approaching. Expected traffic? No, ma'am. And they're not responding to our identification requests. Jiwan put down her food. I'm on my way. She hurried to the command center where Taehyun was studying the sensor displays. On the screen, dozens of small dots were moving toward the station. How many ships? Jiwan asked. At least 50? Maybe more. They're traveling in a loose formation. Could be a trading convoy, Yoonji suggested. Sometimes merchants travel together for safety. Maybe, Jiwan said, but something felt wrong. Most trading convoys announced themselves hours before arrival. These ships had appeared suddenly and were not talking. Keep trying to contact them, she ordered, and alert all department heads. Just in case. The next few hours passed slowly. The unknown ships got closer, but still no one answered the station's calls. As they approached, the sensors revealed more details. These were not expensive trading ships. They looked old and damaged, like ships that had traveled very far and very fast. Finally, when the ships were only a few hours away, a transmission came through. The voice was weak and full of static. Kepler Station. This is Refugee Fleet Omega 7. We request a sanctuary, please. We need help. The voice broke off into sobbing. Jiwan looked at her crew. They had never dealt with refugees before. The station was a trading post, not a refugee center. But they could not turn away beings who were asking for help. Open a channel, she ordered. This is Commander Jiwan of Kepler Station. We hear you, Omega 7. What kind of help do you need? The response was immediate, desperate. Sanctuary, please. The Vorthak are coming. They destroyed everything. Our worlds are gone. We have nowhere else to go. Jiwan felt ice in her stomach. The Vorthak Empire. The same name Yoonji had mentioned that morning. Apparently they were not as far away as everyone thought. She looked at her crew's faces. Yuna looked worried. Taehyun was checking weapon systems. Minho was already calculating how many people the station could hold. How many ships do you have? Jiwon asked. 63 ships carrying survivors from 12 worlds. 30,000 beings total. We have injured. We have children, please. We beg you, Clemencia. The word was in an old Earth language, Spanish. It meant mercy. Jiwon closed her eyes for a moment. 30,000 refugees. The station could barely house them all. And if the Vorthak were really chasing them, Kepler Station might be walking into a war. But these were innocent beings asking for help. Children were crying in those ships. Families had lost everything. Omega 7, this is Kepler Station. You have sanctuary here. We will make room. Transmit your medical needs and we will prepare. Behind her, she heard Minho already talking to the kitchen staff about emergency food supplies. Nari was organizing medical teams. Taehyun was clearing docking bays. They were just a small mining station with peaceful traders and miners. But they could not turn away beings who needed help, even if it meant trouble was coming their way. The refugee ships arrived like a broken parade. One by one, they docked with Kepler Station, or anchored nearby in space. Each ship told the same story through its appearance. Burn marks on the hull, missing pieces, emergency repairs done with whatever materials could be found. Ji-won watched from the command center as families stumbled out of the airlocks. There were species she recognized and others she had never seen before. All of them looked tired, scared, and desperate. Many carried small bags with everything they owned. Some carried nothing at all. "We need more medical supplies," Nari reported through the communicator. "Half of these people are sick or injured, and we're running out of beds." "Use the cargo bays," Ji-won ordered. "Set up temporary medical centers anywhere we have space." Hyuk, who normally handled small trading agreements, now found himself coordinating the biggest refugee operation in the station's history. He looked overwhelmed but determined. "We've got families sleeping in hallways," he said. "The Zelani offered to share their quarters, and the Grunoth are making extra space in their ships." This was something Ji-won had not expected. The aliens who were already at the station were helping the refugees. Competitors in business were becoming helpers in crisis. Salmon, one of their youngest technicians, came running up. "Commander, we have a problem with life support. Too many people breathing the same air. The recycling systems can't keep up. Can you fix it?" "Minho and I are already working on it. We're borrowing extra air scrubbers from some of the refugee ships. It's not perfect, but it should work." Ji-won nodded. Her crew was doing everything they could. But the real test was still coming. She walked through the station to see the refugees for herself. In Cargo Bay 3, families from different worlds sat together on makeshift beds. A mother from a species that looked like giant cats was feeding her cubs. Next to her, a family of rock-like beings was sharing water with bird-like creatures. "Commander," a voice said behind her. Ji-won turned to see an alien she did not recognize. He was tall and thin with gray skin and large black eyes. His clothes were torn and dirty. "I am Elder Korvash," he said in broken English. "I speak for many of the refugee fleets. What can I do for you, Elder?" We must warn you. The Vorthak, they are not far behind us. Maybe 3 days, maybe less. When they find us here," he paused, searching for words, "they will want us back. To make examples of us." Ji-won felt cold. "What exactly are you saying?" "They will demand you give us to them. And if you refuse," Korvash looked around at the families in the cargo bay, "they will take this station too. Your people will suffer for helping us." Other aliens had gathered around them, listening. Ji-won could see fear in their eyes, but also hope. Hope that somehow these humans might be different from everyone else who had turned them away. "Elder, we knew the risks when we offered sanctuary. We're not going to change our minds now." "But you don't understand," another alien said, stepping forward. This one looked like a large insect with beautiful wings. "The Vorthak Empire has 1,000 ships. You have, what, a few security vessels?" "We have what we have," Ji-won said simply. "And we'll use it to protect you." The aliens looked at each other with expressions Ji-won could not read. Some seemed amazed. Others seemed worried that the humans did not understand the danger. Over the next 2 days, more refugee ships arrived. The station stretched to its limits and beyond. They ran out of official quarters and started housing people in storage rooms. The dining halls served food around the clock. Children from a dozen different species played together in the corridors, their laughter a bright sound in dark times. Yuna worked overtime translating for families that spoke languages she had never heard before. She learned that some of these beings had been running for months. The Vorthak Empire was expanding faster than anyone had realized, swallowing up entire star systems. "They don't just conquer," one refugee told her. "They take the strongest of us to work as slaves. They kill the ones they don't need, and they destroy our cultures, our histories, everything that makes us who we are." Minho and his engineering team performed miracles keeping the station running. They rerouted power, rebuilt air systems, and even created new water recycling plants using parts from damaged refugee ships. "These people have been through hell," Minho told Ji-won during one of their brief breaks. "But they're not giving up. Some of them are even helping us fix their own ships so they can carry more refugees." Taehyun had his own challenges. With so many different species on the station, small conflicts were inevitable, but he handled each problem with patience and fairness. When 2 groups argued over sleeping space, he helped them find a solution that worked for everyone. "Most of these problems aren't really about space or food," he explained to Ji-won. "They're just scared. When people are scared, they sometimes take it out on each other." On the 3rd day, Ji-won was meeting with Elder Korvash and several other refugee leaders when the alert came through. Commander to the bridge immediately. Yonji's voice was tight with tension. We have incoming ships. A lot of them. Jiwon ran to the command center, followed by several of the refugee leaders. On the main screen, she could see what had made Yunji nervous. Dozens of large, dark ships were approaching in perfect formation. These were not refugee vessels. These ships were built for war. Vorthak Empire Fleet. Taehyun confirmed, checking the identification signals. 47 ships, all military. Elder Korvash had followed Jiwon to the bridge. When he saw the screen, he made a sound like a wounded animal. They found us, he whispered. A communication request came through. Jiwon looked at her crew, then at the refugee leaders who had gathered behind her. Put them through, she ordered. The screen filled with the image of a Vorthak commander. The alien looked like a cross between a lizard and a shark, with dark scales and too many sharp teeth. Its eyes were cold and cruel. Human station, the Vorthak said in perfect English. You are harboring criminals who belong to the Vorthak Empire. You will surrender them immediately. This is Commander Jiwon. The beings on this station are refugees under our protection. They're not criminals. The Vorthak commander laughed, a harsh sound like breaking glass. Protection? From humans? You have no fleet, no weapons that could hurt us. You are miners and traders, nothing more. Behind Jiwon, she could hear some of the refugee leaders starting to cry. Soft sounds of despair from beings who thought they had finally found safety. Nevertheless, Jiwon said, keeping her voice steady, our answer is no. These people stay here. Then you die with them, the Vorthak said simply. We give you 1 hour to reconsider. After that, we will take what belongs to us and destroy everything else. The transmission ended. Jiwon turned to look at her crew. Yuna was pale but determined. Minyo looked scared but angry. Taehyun was already thinking about defensive positions. Nari had tears in her eyes, but her jaw was set. Elder Korvash stepped forward. His voice was broken when he spoke. Commander Jiwon, you have done more for us than anyone else in the galaxy. But you cannot fight the Vorthak Empire. Please, let us go. Don't let your people die for us. Other refugee leaders nodded sadly. Yes, said the insect-like alien. We will go with them. At least you will live. No, said a small voice. Everyone turned. It was one of the refugee children, a young member of a species that looked like tiny humans with fur. She could not have been more than 8 years old. No, she said again, louder this time. The humans said they would protect us. They promised. Child, Elder Korvash said gently. Sometimes adults cannot keep their promises, but they can try, the little girl said. She ran to Jiwon and grabbed her hand. You said we were safe here. You said sanctuary. Jiwon knelt down to look the child in the eyes. Around them, more refugee families had gathered. They were all watching her, waiting to see what she would do. What's your name? Jiwon asked the little girl. Zira. Well, Zira, you're right. We did promise, and humans keep their promises. Jiwon stood up and faced the refugee leaders. You're not going anywhere. This is our station and you're under our protection. But how can you fight them? Elder Korvash asked. They have so many ships. I don't know yet, Jiwon admitted. But we're going to try. She turned to her crew. All department heads to the conference room now. We have 1 hour to figure out how to defend this station. As they walked toward the conference room, Jiwon heard Elder Korvash say something in his own language. Yuna translated quietly. He said, They're either very brave or very stupid. Maybe both, Jiwon replied. Behind them, little Zira was talking to other refugee children. The humans will protect us, she was saying. They promised. Jiwon hoped the child's faith would not be misplaced. But as she looked at the determined faces of her crew, she began to think that maybe the Vorthak had made a mistake. Maybe they had pushed the wrong species too far. In the conference room, as her team began planning their impossible defense, Jiwon remembered something her grandmother had told her long ago. A human who has nothing left to lose is the most dangerous creature in the universe. The Vorthak were about to learn that lesson. Outside, the refugee families gathered together, holding their children close. They whispered prayers in a dozen different languages, but many of those prayers were the same. Clemencia, they said. Mercy. They had begged for mercy and found it among the humans. Now they would see the conference room had never felt so small. Jiwon sat at the head of the table, looking at faces that showed fear, determination, and confusion in equal measure. They had 53 minutes left before the Vorthak deadline. Options, Jiwon said simply. We could evacuate, Taehyun suggested, though his voice showed he did not like the idea. Get as many people as possible onto the refugee ships and run. The Vorthok would catch us, Minho said, shaking his head. Their ships are faster than anything we have. And where would we go? They'd just hunt us down. What about calling for help? Yuna asked. The nearest Earth Defense Force base. 3 weeks away at best, Jiwon replied. We'd all be dead or captured long before they arrived. Nari spoke up quietly. What about surrendering the refugees? I hate saying it, but maybe we could save our own people. The room fell silent. Everyone was thinking the same thing, but no one wanted to say it. No, Jiwon said firmly. That's not who we are. We gave our word. Then we fight, Taehyun said. Even if we can't win, we make them pay for every life they take. With what? Minho asked. We have security shuttles with light weapons. They have warships. We have mining equipment, Sumin suggested. Mining lasers? Explosive charges for asteroid cracking? That's not enough to stop a fleet. Donghyun had been quiet through all of this. Now he cleared his throat. Actually, it might be. Everyone looked at him. The maintenance worker rarely spoke in meetings. What do you mean? Jiwon asked. Donghyun was quiet for a moment, then he sighed. There are some things about this station you don't know. Things I hoped you'd never need to know. He stood up and walked to a wall panel that Jiwon had always thought was just decoration. Donghyun pressed his hand against it and there was a soft beep. The panel slid aside, revealing a hidden control interface. Kepler Station wasn't always a mining outpost, Donghyun said as he typed commands into the hidden system. 20 years ago, this was Forward Operating Base Kepler, Earth Defense Force. The main screen in the conference room flickered to life, showing station schematics that Jiwon had never seen before. Hidden passages, concealed weapon mounts, armored sections that were disguised as simple storage areas. The official records were changed when the military pulled out, Donghyun continued. The station was sold to mining companies as surplus equipment. But some of us stayed behind to keep watch. Us? Jiwon asked. Former EDF Special Operations. We took civilian jobs and waited. Just in case. Yoonji was staring at her computer screen with wide eyes. Commander, I'm reading massive power signatures throughout the station. Things that were never on our sensor grid before. Defense systems, Donghyun explained. Weapon batteries. Shield generators. And other things. Other things? Donghyun's expression was grim. Things the Earth Defense Force developed during the Centauri Wars. Things we hoped we'd never have to use again. Minho was checking his own readings. This is impossible. How did we never detect any of this? Because it was designed to be hidden, even from you. Donghyun looked at Jiwon. I'm sorry for the deception, Commander. But orders were orders. Whose orders? Earth Defense Command. There are hidden bases like this throughout human space, sleeping until they're needed. Jiwon felt like the universe had shifted around her. Her peaceful mining station was actually a military base. Her maintenance worker was a special forces operative. Nothing was what it seemed. How many people on this station know about this? She asked. 7 of us. All former military, all placed here under deep cover. And the weapon systems? Do they still work? We've been maintaining them in secret for years. Everything is operational. Taehyun leaned forward. What kind of firepower are we talking about? Donghyun typed more commands and new schematics appeared. Particle beam cannon. Missile launchers with anti-ship torpedoes. Point defense systems and... He paused. Experimental weapons. What kind of experimental weapons? The kind that make enemy ships disappear. The room was silent for a long moment. Then Yuna asked the question they were all thinking. Why? Why hide all this? Why not just have an open military base? Because, Donghyun said, this isn't just about defending human space. This is about defending anyone who asks for our help. The Earth Defense Force learned something during the wars. When humans fight to protect innocents, we become something different. Something that scares other species. Different how? We stop thinking like prey animals and start thinking like predators. We use tactics that other species consider excessive. Jiwon understood now. The galaxy thinks humans are weak because we choose to be peaceful. But that's not the same thing as being harmless. Exactly. When we're forced to fight, especially to protect others, we fight in ways that other species can't understand or predict. Another alert came through. Commander, Yoonji said. The Vorthak are transmitting again. Put them through. The Vorthak commander appeared on screen again. Your time is up, humans. Surrender the refugees or be destroyed. G1 looked around the room at her crew. They all nodded, even though they didn't fully understand what they were agreeing to yet. This is Commander G1, she said. Our answer is still no. These people are under human protection. The Vorthak commander's expression changed slightly. For the first time, he looked puzzled. You cannot be serious. You have one small station against our fleet. That's correct. Then you choose death. We choose to protect innocents. If you want them, you'll have to go through us. The transmission ended. Immediately, Dongyun was back at his hidden controls. All hands, this is Commander G1, she announced over the station intercom. We are about to engage hostile forces. All civilians and refugees report to emergency shelters immediately. This is not a drill. How long until they attack? G1 asked. They're already moving, Yunji reported. The fleet is splitting up to surround us. Good, Dongyun said, his whole manner changing. The quiet maintenance worker was gone, replaced by someone who moved with deadly precision. Yunji, transfer control of all station systems to my console. Minho, I need you to reroute all power to defense grid. Taehyun, get your people to the weapon stations. Yuna, start jamming their communications. What about me? Jiwon asked. You stay here in command? This is still your station. As the crew scattered to their tasks, Jiwon watched the tactical display. The Vorthak ships were moving into attack formation, confident that this would be an easy victory. They had no idea what was about to happen. Donghyun, Jiwon said. How many people will die if we do this? Depends on how smart the Vorthak are. If they're smart, they'll run when they see what we can do. If they're not, he shrugged. Then they'll learn why humans prefer peace. And us? What will this do to us? Dongyun paused in his work and looked at her. Commander, when this is over, you'll understand why the other species are both grateful for human protection and afraid of it. We're about to cross a line that we can't cross back. The refugees? They begged us for mercy. Now they're going to see what happens when someone threatens those under human protection. Outside, the Vorthak ships were getting closer. In the emergency shelters, refugee families held their children close and whispered prayers. Weapon systems coming online. Taehyun reported from somewhere in the station. Power levels optimal, Minho added. Enemy communications jammed. Yuna confirmed. All systems ready, Dongyun said. He looked at Jiwon. Your orders, Commander? Jiwon thought about little Zira, who had trusted them to keep their promise. She thought about Elder Korvash and all the other beings who had nowhere else to go. She thought about her crew, who had chosen to stand with her even when it meant certain death. Dongyun, she said quietly, show them what humans are really like. Yes. Ma'am? His fingers moved across the controls and Kepler Station began to change. Hidden panels slid open, revealing weapon barrels. Shield generators hummed to life. Systems that had slept for 20 years woke up hungry for war. On the tactical display, the Vorthak ships continued their approach, expecting to find a defenseless mining station. Instead, they were about to meet something the galaxy had not seen in decades. They were about to meet humans who had been pushed too far. First volley in 30 seconds, Donghyun reported. Make it count, Jiwon said. Oh, it will. After this, the whole galaxy will know what happens when you threaten human-protected refugees. And what's that? Dongyun smiled. And for the first time, Jiwon saw the predator that had been hiding behind the maintenance worker's mask. You become a cautionary tale. That happened when someone tried to take. The first Vorthak ship exploded before its crew knew they were under attack. One moment it was moving toward what looked like a helpless mining station. The next moment, a particle beam cut through its shields like they were made of paper. The ship split in half, its pieces spinning away into space. Target destroyed, Dongyun reported calmly. The other Vorthak ships stopped moving. Jiwon could imagine their confusion. Their scanners would be trying to figure out where such a powerful weapon had come from. They're trying to identify our weapon signatures, Yunji said. Their computers don't recognize anything we're using. Good, Donghyun replied. Keep them guessing. The Vorthak fleet spread out into a wider formation, more cautious now. They had expected an easy victory, but one of their ships was already gone. Jiwon's communicator buzzed. Commander, this is Wusung. She had never heard the name before. Who is this? Pilot approaching from Sector 7 with additional support. Ita 15 minutes. Jiwon looked at Donghyun questioningly. More sleeper agents, he explained. They were waiting at hidden bases throughout the system. How many? Enough. The Vorthak were moving again, this time more carefully. They had learned that the station had teeth, but they still thought they could win through numbers. Incoming missiles, Taehyun reported. 12 warheads, high yield. Point defense active, Donghyun said. The station's hidden weapons came alive. Small turrets popped out of disguised ports and began firing streams of energy at the incoming missiles. One by one, the warheads exploded safely away from the station. Impossible, Yoonji translated from a Vorthak transmission she had intercepted. How does a mining station have military-grade defense systems? They're about to find out, Jiwon said. Donghyun's fingers danced across his controls. Launching torpedo spread. Multiple targets. 6 missiles shot out from launchers that had been hidden inside what looked like cargo containers. But these were not ordinary missiles. They moved faster than anything the Vorthak had seen before, changing direction suddenly to avoid defensive fire. 3 more Vorthak ships died in brilliant explosions. My God, Minho whispered from his engineering station. What kind of weapons are these? The kind we swore we'd never use again, Donghyun said grimly. Unless someone forced our hand. The Vorthak fleet was trying to regroup, but they were clearly shaken. They had come expecting to destroy a helpless station, and had instead lost 4 ships in 2 minutes. Incoming transmission from the Vorthak commander, Yuna reported. Put him through. The lizard-like alien appeared on screen again, but his confidence was gone. What are you? He demanded. We're humans, Jiwon said simply. We told you that already. Humans are miners and traders. You don't have weapons like this? We have whatever we need to protect innocent beings. This is impossible. Our intelligence report said humans were weak. Donghyun looked up from his console. Your intelligence was wrong. Another alarm sounded. More ships approaching, Yoonji announced. But these are reading as human. On the tactical display, new contacts appeared. Small, fast ships that moved with deadly precision. They fell on the Vorthak formation like hunting birds attacking their prey. Wusung here, came the voice over communications. Sorry we're late. Hope we didn't miss all the fun. The new ships opened fire, and their weapons were just as devastating as the station's. Vorthak vessels tried to turn and fight, but the human ships moved like they could read the enemy's minds. How are they doing that? Jiwon asked, watching the tactical display in amazement. Combat prediction algorithms, Donghyun explained. We studied Vorthak tactics for years. We know what they're going to do before they do it. More Vorthak ships exploded. The ones that remained tried to retreat, but the human ships pursued them relentlessly. This was not a battle, it was a hunt. Commander, Inha's voice came through communications. She had introduced herself as a weapons specialist, though Jiwon was sure she had never seen her before today. We have new intelligence. This Vorthak fleet? It's not just here for the refugees. What do you mean? They were planning to use this station as a base to attack human settlements. The refugees were just an excuse. Jiwon felt something cold settle in her chest. They were going to attack our people? After they were done making examples of the refugees, yes. Jiwon looked at the tactical display where more Vorthak ships were dying. She thought about the refugee children sleeping in the emergency shelters. She thought about little Zira, who had trusted humans to keep their promises. Donghyun, she said quietly. Yes, Commander. No survivors. For a moment, the bridge was silent. Then Donghyun nodded. Understood. His hands moved across the controls and the station's weapons took on a different purpose. Instead of just defending, they began hunting. Any Vorthak ship that tried to escape found itself cut off by precise weapons fire. Commander, Yuna said uncertainly, some of the Vorthak ships are sending surrender signals. Ignore them, Jiwon said. They came here to kill refugees and attack human settlements. They made their choice. The battle, if it could even be called that, lasted another 10 minutes. When it was over, 47 Vorthak ships had been reduced to debris and radiation. None had escaped. All hostile contacts eliminated, Taehyun reported. Any damage to the station? Jiwon asked. Minor scoring on the outer hull. Nothing significant. Jiwon slumped in her chair. It was over. The refugees were safe. But something had changed during the fight. She could feel it in herself, in her crew, in the way they looked at each other. Commander, Yoonji said quietly. We're receiving transmissions from all over the sector. The fight was visible to long-range sensors. Everyone knows what happened here. What kind of transmissions? Fear, mostly. And request for protection? Jiwon was not surprised. Word would spread quickly through the galaxy. A human mining station had destroyed an entire Vorthak fleet without taking any real damage. Species that had thought humans were weak traders would be reassessing their opinions. Wusung to Station Command, came the voice over communications. Permission to dock? We need to debrief and plan next steps. Permission granted. As the human ships docked with the station, Ji-won walked through the corridors to the emergency shelters. She needed to tell the refugees that they were safe. The shelters were quiet when she arrived. Families huddled together, still afraid. They had heard the sounds of battle through the station's hull, but they did not know what had happened. Elder Korvash approached her. Commander, are we— You're safe, Ji-won said. The Vorthak fleet is gone. The relief in the shelter was immediate. Beings who had been holding their breath for days finally exhaled. Children started crying, not from fear but from relief. Little Zira ran up to Ji-won and hugged her leg. You kept your promise. Yes, we did. But as Ji-won looked around at the grateful faces, she saw something else. Along with relief and gratitude, there was something new in their eyes. Fear. Not fear of the Vorthak. Fear of the humans who had just made an entire fleet disappear. Elder Korvash seemed to understand what she was seeing. Commander, he said quietly, we are grateful. More grateful than words can express. But what we saw today, what did you see? We saw humans fight, really fight. And it was, he struggled for words, terrifying. Ji-won realized that the refugees had watched the battle on their ship screens. They had seen human weapons cut through Vorthak shields like they were nothing. They had seen human tactics that left no room for mercy or escape. We are still the same people who offered you sanctuary, Ji-won said gently. Are you? Elder Korvash asked. Because the humans who destroyed that fleet, they seemed like something else. Something that doesn't think the way we think. A young refugee who looked like a bear with wings spoke up. My grandfather told stories about the old days when humans first came to our part of space. He said they seemed so peaceful that everyone thought they were easy targets, until someone tried to hurt beings under human protection. What happened then? Another refugee asked. Then the humans stopped being peaceful, and entire species learned to be very, very careful around them. Ji-won understood now. The galaxy had forgotten what humans were really capable of when pushed too far. Today had been a reminder. Commander, Zira said, tugging on her sleeve, are you still going to protect us? Always, Ji-won promised. Even from other humans who might be scared of you now? The question was more insightful than any adult should expect from a child. But Zira had lived through things no child should have to experience. Especially then, Ji-won said. As she walked back toward the command center, Ji-won thought about what Elder Korvash had said. Had they changed during the battle? Had they become something different? Maybe. But if they had to become monsters to protect innocence, then that was what they would do. The refugees had begged for mercy, and humans had answered. Now the galaxy would learn what that really meant. In her quarters that night, Ji-won found a message waiting on her personal computer. It was from Earth Defense Command, encrypted with codes she had never seen before. Commander Ji-won, the message read, congratulations on a successful first engagement. Be advised that your actions today have activated Protocol 7 across all human space. Sleeper assets are now active. The Terran Protection Network is operational. Welcome to the real war. Ji-won stared at the message for a long time. Then she deleted it and went to bed. Tomorrow she would have to figure out what it meant to be human in a galaxy that was suddenly, 3 months after the Vorthak fleet was destroyed. Kepler Station looked very different. What had once been a simple mining outpost was now the center of something much larger. Ships arrived daily, but they were not just traders anymore. Delegations from dozens of species came seeking meetings with Commander Ji-won. Some wanted protection. Others wanted to make sure they would never need protection from humans. Ji-won stood in her expanded office looking out at the permanent refugee settlement that had grown around the station. 300,000 beings now lived in the area, with more arriving each week. They had built homes, schools, even small factories. It was becoming a real city in space. The Altrani delegation is here, Kyungmin announced from the doorway. He was officially listed as a diplomatic envoy, but Ji-won knew he was another former military officer. These days it seemed like half her staff had hidden backgrounds. Which one are the Altrani again? Ji-won asked. There were so many species requesting meetings that she sometimes lost track. The purple ones with the tentacles. They control shipping lanes in the outer rim. They want to discuss protection contracts. Ji-won sighed. Protection contracts were becoming common. Species that had never spoken to humans before were now offering to pay for Terran protection. The galaxy's power structure was shifting, and everyone wanted to make sure they ended up on the right side. Schedule them for this afternoon. What else? The Zilani ambassador wants to discuss the new trade routes. The Refugee Council has 3 proposals for expansion and… Kyungmin hesitated. We have another situation. What kind of situation? The kind where someone attacks beings under human protection and then realizes they made a mistake. Ji-won walked to her command center, where Hyun was coordinating with other human settlements across the galaxy. Intelligence reports flowed across her screens, showing the new reality of human space. What happened? Ji-won asked. The Krell Empire attacked a refugee convoy near the Centauri system, Hyun reported. The convoy was carrying families from the Zephyr worlds. They had Terran protection certificates, and the Krell ships are gone. All of them. The convoy is safe. How many Krell ships? 16. They were eliminated by a single human vessel that happened to be in the area. Ji-won nodded. This was becoming routine. Word had spread quickly through the galaxy about what happened to species that attacked beings under human protection. Most aliens had learned to be careful. Some had not. Any survivors? The human ship offered medical assistance to the Krell crew. Most refused and died with their ships. 3 accepted help and are now in human custody. Send them home with a message. Standard terms? Yes, ma'am. The standard terms were simple. Any species that attacked beings under Terran protection would face immediate retaliation. No warnings. No negotiations. Just swift, overwhelming force. Most of the galaxy had learned to respect these rules. The few that had not were quickly taught. Ji-won walked through the station toward the refugee district. The corridors were busier now, filled with beings from dozens of worlds. Children from different species played together, their parents working side by side in new businesses and schools. In the main plaza, she found Elder Corvash teaching a mixed class of youngsters about galactic history. He looked up when he saw her approach. "Commander," he said warmly, "how are you today?" "Busy. How are the children?" "Learning fast. They want to understand how the galaxy works now." Ji-won looked at the young faces staring up at her. Some were species she recognized. Others were completely new to her. All of them had been born into a universe where humans were known as protectors of the innocent. "What are you teaching them today?" she asked. "About the time before Terran protection," Elder Corvash said, "when strong species could attack weak ones without consequences." One of the children, a young being that looked like a small dragon, raised her hand. "Elder Corvash, is it true that humans used to pretend to be weak?" "They didn't pretend," Elder Corvash corrected gently. "They chose to be peaceful." "There's a difference, but why?" asked another child. "If they were so strong, why not just take whatever they wanted?" Elder Corvash looked at Ji-won, then back at the children. Because humans understood something that many species forgot. True strength is not about taking what you want. It's about protecting those who cannot protect themselves. An older child spoke up. "My parents say some species are still afraid of humans, even the ones who ask for protection." This was true, and Ji-won knew it. The galaxy was grateful for human protection, but that gratitude came with fear. Beings who had seen human weapons in action understood that they were dealing with something far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. "Fear is not always bad," Ji-won told the children. "Sometimes fear keeps people from making stupid choices." "Like attacking refugee ships?" the small dragon asked. "Exactly like that." After the class, Ji-won walked with Elder Corvash through the refugee district. Markets bustled with activity, selling goods from dozens of worlds. Families had built comfortable homes. There was even a hospital where Dr. Nari worked alongside medical specialists from different species. "It's hard to believe this all started with 63 refugee ships," Elder Corvash said. "It started when you asked for help," Ji-won corrected. "We just did what we thought was right, and now the whole galaxy is different." Because of it, they stopped at a memorial wall where the names of all the Vorthak attack victims were written in their original languages, thousands of names representing dozens of species. "Do you ever regret what happened?" Elder Corvash asked quietly. Ji-won considered the question. "Regret destroying the Vorthak fleet? No. Regret that it was necessary." Every day, The children who were born here in the refugee district, they'll grow up thinking this is normal, that there are always humans nearby to protect them. Maybe that's better than growing up afraid. Maybe. But what happens when humans aren't there? What happens when they have to protect themselves? It was a good question and one that kept Jiwon awake at night. Terran protection was changing the galaxy, but it was also making many species dependent on human strength. We're working on that, she said. Training programs. Defense alliances. We can't protect everyone forever, can't you? Jiwon looked at him sharply. What do you mean? Commander, there are rumors about how many humans are really out there. Hidden bases, sleeper agents, weapons that make what we saw here look small. Some species think humans have been preparing for this for a very long time. The rumors were not entirely wrong. Since the Vorthek incident, more and more human assets had revealed themselves. Merchant ships turned out to be disguised warships. Trading posts revealed hidden weapons. Civilian crew members showed military training that was far beyond anything needed for peaceful work. The galaxy thought humans were weak because we let them think that, Jiwon admitted. It seems safer that way. Safer for whom? For everyone, including us. They reached the end of the district where new construction was expanding the settlement even further. Ships from the latest refugee convoy were being processed, their passengers preparing to start new lives under human protection. Elder, Jiwon said, can I ask you something? Of course. When your people first came here, you used the word clemencia, mercy. Is that really what you were asking for? Elder Korvash was quiet for a long moment. At first, yes. We were asking for mercy, for kindness, for basic compassion. But now, he gestured at the thriving community around them. Now I think we were asking for something else without knowing it. What? We were asking to be valued. To matter enough that someone would risk everything to keep us safe. And humans answered that call in a way that changed everything. A message alert came through Jiwon's communicator. Commander, priority transmission from Earth Defense Command. Jiwon sighed. More politics, more decisions about how to handle the galaxy's new reality. I have to go, she told Elder Korvash. Of course, but Commander, thank you for all of it. Back in her office, Jiwon opened the encrypted message from Earth. It was longer than usual, filled with status reports from across human space. The summary was simple. Terran protection was working. Attacks on protected beings had dropped to almost zero. Several aggressive species had completely changed their behavior, rather than risk confrontation with humans. Trade was flowing freely along routes that were now guaranteed safe by human presence. But there were concerns too. Some species were becoming completely dependent on human protection. Others were trying to manipulate the system, claiming to be refugees when they were actually economic migrants. And a few were quietly building their own military forces, preparing for a day when human protection might not be available. The message ended with a simple question. How do we maintain galactic peace without becoming galactic tyrants? Jiwon stared at the screen for a long time. Then she typed her response. We remember why we started this. We remember the refugees who begged for mercy, and the children who trusted us to keep our promises. As long as we protect innocents instead of controlling them, we'll be what the galaxy needs us to be. She sent the message and walked back to the observation deck where she had stood on that first day, watching the morning shift begin. Now she could see the lights of the refugee city,